It's time for Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley. Coming up, we got the Microsoft quarterly results, and they were good. We'll talk about some of the highlights. Also, the rumored fall hardware launch, including perhaps the Duo 2, now with more camera bump. And it was a great quarter for Xbox, but even better for Sony. Paul Thurrott talks about Xbox and all the Windows news next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust. This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley, episode 735, recorded Wednesday, July 28th, 2021. So I kept drinking. Hello, dozers. It's time for Windows Weekly. How do you like that? That's the new open.
Hope you weren't falling asleep there.
I've been listening to Call Her Daddy, which is my new, Alex Cooper's my new hero, because she just got $60 million from Spotify, a 3-year deal. I mentioned this last week. And I've been listening, trying to figure out, well, what is it that makes her so successful? And I can't be an attractive 26-year-old woman. However, I was talking about this with Renee Ritchie. She does some other psychological tricks, including that open, but also naming her fans. So every show now we're going to have a pet name for people who listen to the show. You guys are all dozers.
Gotcha.
Okay?
You really should be wearing the backwards baseball hat.
I should do it.
Strongly about that.
Yeah.
Perhaps be cradling a skateboard while you talk.
Hey, dozers! Don't forget to slam the bell and hit the button or whatever that is.
Hey, other kids.
Hey, other kids. Yeah. Hey, hello, fellow kids. I know it's hopeless for me, and I don't expect Spotify to reward this, but if it makes people feel good,
Spotify should reward you. We were listening to your Security Now podcast while we were waiting. And
aren't you sweet? Aren't you?
Yeah, and your voice comes on, and it's like you have such a great, soothing voice. I don't understand.
Paul.
No, you do.
I put people to sleep by the dozens. It's really it's a skill.
That's a skill. That's a skill.
Dozers.
I'm not unhappy with my lot, that's for sure. We've done very well, and I love doing these shows. And this is 15 years, almost 16. So I'm not, actually more than it is 16, almost 17. So I'm not unhappy, but I think I want to step up the production value. So,
pays to advertise. So
every once in a while, I may yell the F word.
Okay. Right.
For no apparent reason.
Just start calling me an ignorant slut from time to time.
Yeah, just for, we're going to. And I'm going to call you all dozers. I don't know. Is that a bad? She calls her listeners the Daddy Gang.
Oh,
and
God.
she says, I'm your founding father. So it's cute. They've got and her house is the Daddy Pad. So she's got a whole thing going.
I already hate it.
Yeah.
I already hate it. I don't even need to listen to it.
It's very morning zoo radio kind of, sort of. I don't know. It's radio, though. What's interesting is...
It's the type of thing that's worth thousands and thousands of dollars.
A minute. She makes $500,000 a show.
Wow.
So makes sense.
Well, now, that number is the number bruited about that was in the Wall Street Journal. But I remember when Kevin Rose founded Dig, and he was on the cover of Business Week. It said the $60 million man, and Kevin said, "No, I wish." Yeah. So I
Kevin writes for the New York Times now, so he clearly still needs to work.
Who does?
Doesn't Kevin Roos write for the New York Times?
No, not Roos.
Oh, did I mix that up?
Rose.
Rose.
The dark tipper
at least it's
from
not much
of
a leap, at least. Okay.
Yeah, no, I know Kevin Roos. Anyway. So, dozer, according to the Internet Urban Dictionary, dozer is a synonym for awesome. So, hey, dozers, you are awesome.
I actually think it's pretty telling that none of us knew that. And
that's what the Urban Dictionary is for, is for people like me, because I don't know any of that stuff.
And then there must be a word for people like us that we also don't want to hear.
How about hey, hadoopers?
Hey, doopers. Hey, doopers. That's not so bad.
Share pinters.
No.
Maybe not.
No.
Maybe not.
I mean, I'm open to anything, but we got to all agree on it. We got to get it. Hey, this was a very big week for the tech industry. Quarterly results for Apple, Google, and Microsoft, as well as AMD, came out. Big quarter. No one would deny that. How did Microsoft do?
We're going to tell you in depth.
I had a feeling. I saw that coming, and I pitched you a little softball. Who wants to start?
How do we encapsulate this quarter?
I know.
You say Microsoft blew out its fourth quarter.
We could just pretend we're the Wall Street people and say, "Great quarter, guys."
I can't stand that. When you listen to the call, hey, congratulations on a great quarter, Satya. Great job. Thanks, Bob, whoever you are. Yeah.
No, they blew out all, like analysts had, I forget what the earnings per share prediction was, but Microsoft just blew by it. And they're just growing. They're growing at a rate, even if you take COVID into consideration, that's amazing, pretty much.
Yeah. Actually, honestly, the most compelling question in that whole post-earnings conference call was somebody asked them if they could keep it up. And they said yes. And I was like, well, we'll see.
That question, by the way, was the longest question ever. Like, it went on so long. I was like, what was this guy's question?
Well, people like the sound of their own voice, obviously.
I know.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
He says.
I noted that the stock has been going down, which is usually what happens when you have a great quarter.
Yeah, exactly.
You know why it's going down, actually? You want to know why?
All the tech.
Because they said that Azure growth would slow in the future and slow to like 45%, or something like that. I think that's why.
It's crazy.
It's insane.
Tim Apple said the supply chain crisis is going to hit us hard, not with our main chips, but with the legacy chips. And it tanked Apple stock too. So they're just looking for any excuse.
Microsoft had the same supply chain constraint thing. Yeah, and that's what they blamed the pretty bad Surface numbers and the lower Windows numbers and Xbox console predictions all on component shortage.
So I'm just gonna, I don't mean to interrupt, but I just take exception to two of the three of those. So Surface had a terrible quarter. And that's because they haven't announced a new device in like 6 or 9 months or whatever it is. And they had devices that were new in the market a year ago. They had a bad comparable quarter.
Yeah.
That's why they don't sell a bunch of Surfaces to begin with. But the other one is the Windows thing, right? Windows was not as good because of this. Yeah, except for one thing. Last week, Intel released its earnings, and its earnings were a blockbuster, and they credited PC sales for that. If I just looking at this real quick, 50% of their sales from the PC business, PC sale volumes were up 33% in the quarter. So why did Windows do bad?
Also probably comparable quarter, right? Like a year, if you think about a year ago, we were like just in the kind of earlier days of the pandemic, right?
Yeah, but Intel's doing the same comparison, right? So same quarter, same comparison. They saw a 33% bump. Microsoft's sales from PC makers, Microsoft's revenues from PC makers fell. Yeah. They fell.
AMD's doubled year over year.
Yeah, but what's twice of nothing, Leo? I mean, no, I mean, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I mean, Intel's revenues in the quarter were 19 point something billion dollars. AMD's were 3.8 billion. So they're not really on the same scale, right?
Right.
I wonder if Surface is starting to get hurt because of the lack of Thunderbolt and
innovation,
5G, and
they're on it. You can do a slow boil rollout of new products when you're Apple because Apple
is
no
already other choice.
They're at a very high level too. Surface is doing the same thing, but they're not the same product, and it just doesn't have this. They just don't resonate. I love Surface, and I when I criticize something like this, it's weird for me because I really like Surface PCs, but they really let these things stagnate. And even Surface, like say Surface Laptop, which is on the first rev, physically it's completely identical to the first version. Like it has one port. Well, I guess it has two now, but it's a real kind of low port situation. They don't touch the body. They've just left it sitting there. I mean, I've had 5 PCs come into my house just this month for review so far, and I think I'm going to get a 6th one by the time it's over. These things get revved when you're HP, Dell, Lenovo especially, but Asus I have, and Samsung and Acer. They rev. They're always improving these products. And I feel like Microsoft kind of sits on them. And I think it's kind of a boutique business, and that's why. But I'm sure they had a little bit of a component issue, but I really think the bigger issue is they just aren't doing enough.
Did you just crack open a cool one, Mary Jo?
I did. Well, it is okay.
Hey, it wasn't me.
It's a seltzer.
Okay.
It's not a. I'm not a day drinker.
I can't sell these services. I'm going to crack open a cold one.
I have problems, but they don't involve day drinking.
Just want everybody to know
drink
we
white
heard
water.
We heard
it's literally 0-calorie water.
Yeah, whenever you ask Microsoft, why do they not rev Surfaces? So the answer they give a lot is enterprises don't want us to change things that much because they want the ports to be in the same place. They've already bought stands or cases or blah blah blah. Maybe that's true. I don't know if it's true. What I also think if anything is hurting Surface, it may be the reports of different issues people have, like the thing I had happen with my Surface Laptop 3, cracking screens, people with, bulging batteries, that kind of stuff. That may be starting to catch up with them too, right? And I always say to people when they say to me, would you recommend a Surface? I'd say, you know what? There are a lot of nice PCs out there, and I probably wouldn't buy a Surface as my next PC.
I would buy a Surface for myself, but but when it comes to recommending one, it's like, I don't know. I haven't personally had a lot of problems since that original Surface Book. That was a nightmare. Right.
Yeah, that was.
So I would say since then, it's been pretty error-free for me.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, that stopped me from buying the next Surface Book.
I know, right?
I did buy a Surface laptop.
Right.
But and I've never.
I think they're beautiful machines.
I never bought the convertible tablet Surface. I know a lot of people love it. A lot of people around here love it.
I don't like it at all.
Doesn't do it for me.
It's just too small.
I love the laptop. I think that's the best Surface.
Laptop is the best one to me. Also,
I agree. I agree with that. But I also,
it gets hurt by being laggard in technologies.
That's right. And there are more innovative. Maybe I should say more useful convertible PC designs. We've all seen those things that flip around and they become kind of giant tablets or whatever. But, HP, for example, has that Elite Folio that is, it's Windows 10 on ARM, which is kind of the Achilles heel. But the screen pulls forward and it kind of slaps down onto the keyboard. So the keyboard's never exposed. And it's just a better, it's not really 2-in-1. It's kind of a 4-in-1 or 3-in-1 device, however you want to call it. But I just think that makes more sense for more people, that kind of design than a tablet. The people who want a tablet or need a tablet love those things, but they're a very tiny minority, I would say, in the PC space.
The strength of the PC space is its diversity and variety.
It is.
But it's also what hurts Microsoft Surface because there's lots of other choices, In the long run, isn't that more important to Microsoft? I mean,
I would think so.
Yep.
Right?
This has always been the argument against Surface to begin with. Like, why even bother? Wouldn't you rather see that diversity on the market? And let's face it, these are the companies this is what they do. HP, Lenovo, Dell. Yeah. They have better support. They sell more. They have more experience. It's just and I hate to say, it's tough because again, I really do like Surface, but most people are probably better off going with an established, well-worn, PC maker that knows what they're doing.
Yeah, agree.
I will say, by the way, though, Panos Panay, who runs Surface, right? The one thing him taking over Windows, I think is very interesting, and I feel like his kind of methodical way of going about things is better suited for Windows than it is for hardware in a market where everything else is happening really quickly, And he certainly has like an attention to detail that I like. And when you look at Windows 11, you're like, oh, this is nice. I don't know that 6 months ago I would have thought Windows needed like any kind of a spit shine or whatever. But now that I see Windows 11, you're like, oh, actually, this is nice.
Mm-hmm. I just bought, as you know, an Alienware Ryzen-based R10 gaming machine. Mm-hmm. As of July 1st, you can't ship it to California. You can't buy it in California, Colorado, Hawaii, Oregon, Vermont, or Washington because of the power consumption.
Oh, jeez.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, there are other machines.
Are they going to ban
well.
like water cooling in Arizona?
Well, it's ironic because I'm sure I have a hot tub that uses more power than my gaming machine.
You have an electric vehicle, don't you, Leo?
Yeah. Well, I use a lot more power. I mean, I understand the desire to kind of the grids in these states.
Well, where did that come from? Who determined this?
The states.
The states literally are preventing the sale of
If you go to the
computers,
Ryzen R10 page on Dell, this product cannot be shipped to states. It's due to power consumption
regulations. You're going to do like a back of the car deal, like on the state border, where you're like, got the goods.
Drive over to Nevada to
give
get
some avocados,
my
and he gives you a graphics card.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. Isn't that
I've not heard of this. That's
there's
crazy.
a furor going on Reddit.
Yeah.
A lot of people's orders were canceled.
One of our reviewers who lives in Colorado was just livid because he's like, okay, so this is really going to hamper what I do, right?
There's got to be.
Crazy.
Well, on the other hand, I don't want to dismiss it, but look, we're kind of in a climate crisis. I don't want to dismiss the need to do this.
I agree.
But it seems a little, they've singled out.
No,
computers.
like, okay, what about air conditioners?
Right.
What about washing machines?
Yeah.
There's things that use a lot more power. I don't know what the TPU for this is. I should find out. But wow.
I know.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I mean,
I wonder if you could do like an electricity offset type thing where your house is otherwise very efficient or something.
I guess they've banned
trees,
incandescent light bulbs for the same reason, right?
Yeah.
But now I would imagine this is going to help a little bit with ARM and other low power devices. I mean, just crazy.
Yeah.
I imagine this will hit Teslas eventually, right?
Mm.
Yeah, right.
Which is the wrong direction to go.
Yep, I agree.
Anyway, sorry. Let's get back to Microsoft's earnings. They did have a good
we touched
Xbox.
on the tiniest part of Microsoft so far.
Yeah,
that's the only thing we've done.
The Surfaces.
Yeah.
So where did they do great? Right, Azure. Right, it's got to be
everywhere else.
Everywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Azure was up 51% of whatever number. We don't know. They never have given us an Azure number, right? So up 51% though.
Insert quarterly grumbling about not giving us the details that investors really do need
and
to invest.
they've switched metrics. They don't do month over or quarter over quarter comparisons for some things, but they do for others. Something, enterprise mobility is measured by seats.
Yeah.
Azure is measured by revenues, but only on percentage basis. You never get the actual number. I mean, this is just another month in Microsoft land.
No, and then we added a new wrinkle yesterday. They are now giving us a new Teams number, but they're changing the metric on it, so you can't compare it to previous numbers. So up until now, they've been giving us daily active users, and then as of yesterday, they're starting to give us monthly active users for Teams. So you can't really say Teams was up, X number of points over the previous number we had, but we're now at 250 million monthly active users for Teams, they said yesterday.
So here's the question I have about this, and I figure if anyone knows this, it will be you, because I didn't see this, and I looked for it. They usually give...
They didn't publish it.
What's that?
They didn't publish a number. They just said it.
No. I mean, they usually... No, that's fine. I looked for it in the transcript of the call.
Yeah.
They usually provide a number for the Office, we'll call it Office 365 or Microsoft 365 commercial seats. And I don't think they did this month, because
they don't do that almost ever anymore.
Okay, so they did the consumer figure. That's fine. The reason I mentioned
every time they do consumer, but they don't do commercial. They just give us a percentage.
So I figured, that's interesting. I felt like it had been a while. What used to be interesting about the Teams number is how small it was compared to the installed base or the seats for Microsoft 365 commercial, because everyone on Microsoft 365 commercial now gets it for free, right? Or as part of the subscription.
Right.
So if there are 250 million monthly active users for Teams, there's some number of million, so we'll call them seats. I would say seats and monthly active users are the same thing, essentially. So they're kind of I would say they're comparable at least. I have it in my head that the last time I got a number, it was the 300 something million range. Does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
So it sounds like there's a much higher percentage of Microsoft 365 commercial customers now actually using Teams, which makes sense because you get it.
It does.
There was a pandemic. We needed it. It's, you don't have to pay extra for it.
Yeah. Yep.
I wish I knew that number. That would be kind of interesting because I feel like the percentage of, seats using Teams has gone up.
Yeah. It's a weird number, monthly active users, because I think all it technically means is that a user has to do one thing in Teams during the month, even if it's by accident. Like if you accidentally open Teams in a month, you're counted as a monthly active user, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but
sort of active,
so high.
Slightly active, a little active.
Yeah.
Define active.
Yeah. I asked Microsoft yesterday for an official explanation why they switched from daily active to monthly active, and they're giving me these really fluffy things that I don't even want to put in my blog post. So I'm like, would you guys like to come back with something that I don't have to be sarcastic about in my blog post?
Well, it's because it's a bigger number, right? It's it just makes them look better. It might also have something to do. I don't know how Zoom and Google with Meet, they may have this way. Maybe they use the same metric. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. The ones who aren't giving metrics anymore are Slack, right? Like I don't even remember the last time we had a Slack number of how many people they have. So,
right. Interesting.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so it's a good number. Like 250 million sounds like a lot of people, monthly active users.
Yeah.
I wish they gave us daily active users again, because in April we had 145 million daily active users.
Yeah, just give us that one transition month, right?
I know. Yep.
It's our quarter.
Yeah. A lot of people speculating they're giving us this number because growth is starting to slow. And then the analysts will do what they're doing with Azure, which is, hey, that growth percentage is going down. Even though the base is bigger, that number is going down. So let's ding the stock, right? I don't know.
Right.
Maybe.
Right.
Maybe. So somebody, let me see, who is this in Discord? Yoshi in Discord is asking me a question I did ask and got an answer to. Where is Windows 365 going to show up when Microsoft starts reporting these numbers? So This is super interesting, right? It's going to show up in more personal computing. It's not going to show up in Intelligent Cloud, even though it's a service.
Okay, I'm actually okay with that. I think you could make a case for either direction, obviously.
Yeah, maybe.
But because this is this is still like Windows revenues, right? Windows revenues include, PC goes out the door, has Windows on it, includes licensing from commercial customers. That makes sense. I think that I'm okay with that.
You do?
I think so.
I said, I'm like, is it going to be counted in commercial cloud? They said no, and I was like, really? Okay.
But this is the complexity of there is no one. Microsoft has three primary business units, right? Intelligent Cloud, Productivity and Business Processes, and more personal computing. Microsoft 365 has components that are literally in each of those things. You could kind of make the argument that most of it is in Productivity and Business Processes, and that's where you see a lot of the Office revenues and all that. But Windows is a component of it, and Windows obviously is part of more personal computing. Yeah. So, this is where things get fuzzy. I mean, this is not but they also have this commercial, what do they call it? Commercial cloud business, that I love so much that doesn't exist either, where they're like, we'll take a little from here and a little from here. Yeah. And they have some number that's really big.
Yeah. Yeah. But I just thought that was interesting because I was like, I would have guessed that you were going to report that in commercial cloud. Nope.
Yeah, no, I think you can make a case for either one, I guess.
Yeah, I guess
also, this might, Windows revenues are probably going to go down over time, and this might be a way of shoring that up. And it's not cheap to do so in the sense that it's Windows, right? So I could see them, maybe they could split the revenue between the two or something. I don't know. So Microsoft 365 is partially in commercial cloud, but not completely in commercial cloud, which, it's just that bucket of commercial cloud, like you're saying, it's like they kind of pick and choose what goes in there. And so, it's a big number. It's like 19 billion or whatever right now. But it's hard to actually make commercial a case cloud for consistency. Oh, there's no case for consistency. I think it exists because of Amazon. I think they literally want something they can point to and say, see, we're big too.
They do. Yeah, they do. Yep. Yeah, so that the Teams number was interesting. Okay, and then here's another one that was a little controversial. LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn is now a $10 billion business, Microsoft announced yesterday. And they said in the past 3 years, they have created at Microsoft 3 new $10 billion businesses. And they said one of these is gaming and one is security. So this is another number that's very kind of like amorphous, right? Because if you look at how do they count the security being a $10 billion business, security products are all over the place in the Microsoft org. So they're kind of like, they're not taking them out of any division and saying, okay, and here's the security bucket. They're just saying, if we could take all these arbitrary products and combine them into another bucket like commercial cloud and call it security.
The problem I had with this came up as part in this part of the conversation. They described these as new franchises.
They did.
So, okay, I have a huge problem with this. Gaming Xbox has been part of Microsoft for 20 years now. This year literally is the 20th anniversary of Xbox.
Yep.
But Microsoft has been in gaming for longer than that. They made joysticks and Flight Simulator and blah, 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 whatever. But calling this a new franchise is amazing to me. You know, LinkedIn has been in business much longer than Microsoft's ownership, obviously. And then security, I mean, come on. Security is security should not be a business. Security should be an ingredient in everything that Microsoft does.
Right.
And I have a huge problem with that. This dates back to when Microsoft used to sell, let me think, Windows Live OneCare or whatever that stupid thing was called. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you're solving a problem that you caused and you're charging for it.
Exactly. This is super. When they came out with that 10 billion security number, a lot of people were like, oh yeah, that's great. You're making $10 billion off shipping insecure products that I have to buy security to shore.
And then charging me to get rid of the ransomware that you're allowing in.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is another one of those numbers. You're like, okay. And then, so LinkedIn for me is even more kind of sketch, right? Because is LinkedIn profitable?
That's my bit.
We don't know.
Exactly. Well, by the way, we do know because they would be trumpeting that if it was true.
They would. So we don't know if, we're pretty sure LinkedIn is not profitable. Again, on the call, they said, you know what? Our marketing solutions are up 97%. Revenues from LinkedIn were up 46% over the year ago quarter. Well, think what it was happening a year ago. It was the height of the pandemic. So was anybody using LinkedIn to like recruit and to like advertise new jobs? Not really, right? And so they even said our advertising business for LinkedIn did $1 billion this quarter. Yeah, because last quarter, a year ago quarter, nobody was buying ads on LinkedIn, right? And now they're starting to because the pandemic is starting to turn and people need to hire. So it's one of those ones you're like, okay, and I've complained about this a lot. When Microsoft bought LinkedIn in 2016, still their biggest acquisition ever, $26.2 billion. They made all these promises of integrating it across their product suite, and they've done very, very little to integrate LinkedIn. And now they say that was by design, and all they really wanted to do was grow the number of sessions and number of members, and that was really all they wanted. Okay, if that is what you wanted, that's not what you said you bought it for in 2016.
No. In fact, I always tell this story. Frank called. I was in Colorado, and I voiced great skepticism about LinkedIn and didn't understand why they would spend so much money on something like this. And this was the story. At the time, he said, we can't really talk about this now, but because we haven't the purchase hadn't gone through, and you can't really start implementing things. But he said, the plan was to integrate LinkedIn everywhere, just like you said, and okay. But you don't really see that. And that's fine. You can have standalone businesses. They do this, right? I mean, that's okay. But they spent a lot of money on LinkedIn, and
I know they do.
I don't quite see the payoff here. Still, years later.
They say on the call they're very happy. It's bringing in $10 billion in revenue per year now from LinkedIn. Right. I don't know. Lately I feel like, this isn't quite as much lately, but for a while, especially during the pandemic, I felt like every company Microsoft was buying, they were buying it and just kind of letting it run by itself and saying, that's the design. That's what we intended to do. And we're just going to be like a collection of companies loosely owned, right? And we're just going to manage them and take the money and just let them do their thing, whatever it is. I think if they had bought Pinterest, it kind of would have worked that way, right? Or even
Pinterest.
Discord,
but when you buy security companies, right, which Microsoft has been doing a lot of lately, you don't keep these things separate. The point should literally be what I said earlier. This becomes something you integrate into everything that you do, where it makes sense.
Yep.
So I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm not a corporate bigwig, Mary Jo, but
no, neither am I. I'm an armchair
put on a suit.
quarterback.
You could live with one anyway.
Get my Monopoly monocle going.
Big old mustache.
Mm-hmm.
So was there anything else that surprised you though on the earnings call? I have one number that surprised me.
Okay,
I'm going to tell you my one number. Amy Hood just kind of dropped this in casually. She said, "Okay, of all our Office 365 commercial seats, 8% now are on E5. So E5 is their super high-end subscription. So I was like, wait, only 8% are on E5? And I saw other people going, wow, 8% are on E5. And I'm like, so E5's been in the market for a long time, and Microsoft is always trying to upsell people to E5. So I'm kind of surprised E5 is only bigger. 8%. Yeah. I guess you could look at if you're a glass half full person, which I know you are, Paul, you could say it gives them a lot of headroom for expansion.
There you go.
Look at that.
Boy. Oh, that kind of positivity gives me a little shudder up the back.
You like that? Yeah.
I'm not that kind of person.
Yeah,
there were a couple of things. I was, by the way, Windows 365 barely mentioned. Now, I know it didn't impact revenues, of course. They're not selling it yet. But I mean, it seems like Microsoft likes to talk about the future a lot. It seems like this could have been, they spent some time on Windows 11. I mean, I'm surprised that wasn't a bigger deal. But obviously, Windows 11, Windows 365 are coming for people in the Windows space. That's kind of a big deal. Mm-hmm. They're not generating revenues yet. I was surprised in some ways by the Windows and the Xbox numbers because they're all over the map. Yeah. So when you look at like gaming, right? Gaming overall was up just 11%. And Xbox, this is bizarre, but Xbox hardware had its best quarter ever by revenues. 172% growth year over year. Now, again, 172% is zero. A year ago, we knew the Xbox Series X and S were coming. No one was buying Xbox One. I mean, this is the ideal comparable for them. But gaming revenue is just 11%. Xbox content and services were down 4%.
That's surprising.
They have the fastest selling Xbox consoles ever in the middle of a component shortage. So they could have been so much more. And this business, granted, it's kind of the off season for gaming or whatever, but. I was surprised they didn't talk any Game Pass subscriber numbers, anything like that. Just that they engage, blah blah blah, whatever. Yeah. But Windows was kind of the same way. Like Windows. Let me see if I can find the number here. My own article. Windows commercial revenues were up 20%. Okay, good. Revenues from PC makers were down 30%. Like what? I know. What is going on here? Yeah. I'm sorry, gaming revenue overall was only up 4%. I'm sorry. Xbox content. I mean, it's weird to me that parts of the same business seemingly are going gangbusters, and then other parts of it are just tanking, And Xbox and Windows to me were both very much the same like that. Not that those businesses are identical, but I mean, they had components that were doing great, and it's like some of this is a little scary. But when the other thing is, and just looking from a high level, I always have this number in my head because it was so consistent for so long. For a couple of years in a row, almost every quarter, each of the Microsoft business units was generating about 11 billion in revenues, and it's been interesting to watch. Intelligent Cloud is kind of taking off from the other two. So, and of course the numbers are bigger now. So Intelligent Cloud, 17.4 billion, right? 30% year over year increase. Productivity and business processes, 14.7 billion, gain of 25%. More personal computing kind of brings up the rear, but not by far. 14.1 billion in revenues, but it's the smallest business, and it grew the smallest as well, 9% year over year. And that's interesting because like the stuff I care about at Microsoft, well, I guess there's some of it, not other parts of it, but Windows, Xbox, right, are both in more and Surface. That's more personal computing. If I had to pick one, that would be the one. And it's not dying or anything, but I mean, 14 billion is nothing to sneeze at.
No.
The other thing is, I think you mentioned the 10 billion business revenue thing. I have a small problem with that. Like typically, you look at that quarter by quarter, not annual, but okay, that's fine. But I mean, I guess if you wanted to extrapolate, right? So, for example, we got a number for Office consumer subscriptions. It's 50. We'll call it 52 million subscribers. So, what's the average price of a Office, Microsoft 365 consumer subscription? $5, $10 a month. I mean, if you do the math, this is not, it's not a $10 billion business, but it's more than a $1 billion business. Just Microsoft 365 consumer.
Yep.
Is, even though 51.9 million in the scope of things, right? The 300 something million that's probably on the commercial side doesn't seem that big. The 1.3 billion that are using Windows 10 today, right? 52 million are actually paying Microsoft for Microsoft 365 individuals, or families. That's it. I mean, that's the smallest part of the Office empire, and it's actually pretty big.
Yeah. So the three businesses I hired, the security, gaming, and LinkedIn, those are only three businesses that have become $10 billion in the past 3 years. Because I said, you have a lot of other $10 billion businesses. And they're like, yeah, but we're just talking about the newest $10 billion business.
Well, and to be fair, Xbox just did it right now. And they only did it because of the pandemic,
Right.
And I don't know. That was the other thing. I don't remember the numbers, but he talked about the Satya Nadella, that is the total size of the gaming business is some enormous sum. There's some unbelievable number of people that game, and then left unsaid is a very small minority of those play on Xbox. Like it's not, that's an opportunity. He was trying to position it as the opportunity and maybe one of the reasons why Microsoft would pursue this market, and that's fine. That makes tons of sense. But realistically. Man, if they could have just sold, made the things, they could have sold so many more, and it would have been an even more unbelievable story on unit sales.
They would have been selling like hotcakes, or maybe more to the point, Krispy Kreme Xbox.
Yes.
Right. Yep.
20th anniversary. Those look good.
Yep. Yeah. They should have gone with the OG logo, though.
Yeah, I know.
With the anniversary, but
probably easier to make this one.
Yeah.
You guys didn't ask me what number stood out to me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Leo.
What number stood out to you, Leo?
The number of Yammer users doubled year over year.
I knew you were gonna focus on that. I knew.
I am thinking about writing the Yammer field guide.
You know why you should? Just so you could use the word yam jam.
Yam jam, baby. Well, Yammer, it's funny because I remember when Yammer was the product of the year. What was it at TechCrunch Disrupt or something? It was like, because it was like a business Twitter. And
Microsoft really rode that wave, huh?
Yeah, they bought it. And then that was it. Did they incorporate it into something?
SharePoint, sort of, but.
Yeah, but now it's built into Viva, right?
Maybe
that's why usage doubled. But as Paul will always point out, double nothing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I always expected, and frankly still expect them just to get rid of the brand and roll it, just make it part of SharePoint. But
it's got a good name, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's true.
So
Yam Jam. I just want to say Yam Jam.
Yam Jam. Mashed Potato said it went from 1 user to 2.
Yeah, exactly. 2, and it was a guy looking over his shoulder.
Big growth.
You know what? They're determined to try to say, okay, we bought this thing. We paid a lot of money for it. We need to find a way to make it work, right? Like, somehow.
Right.
Yeah.
But for all the quibbles and nits, it was a very good quarter. Yes,
it was a great quarter.
It was, but I got to say, Microsoft obviously wasn't the only company that announced earnings this week. Apple and Google, both of which, by the way, made more money than Microsoft, also announced their revenues. And you see, everyone's breaking records. It's insane. And I have a small, I don't know what this is, some idealistic part of me that is bothered by the fact that these companies are benefiting to such a great degree when the world is on fire.
Yeah.
it's not their fault. Of course, you're a business. You're there to make money. You should take advantage of the situation. And Microsoft and these other companies were ideally situated to do that and did. But I don't know. It's like Microsoft is handing out $1,500
that's so silly.
COVID checks to its employees.
Thank you for working so hard for the last 18 months.
Wow, $1,500. I mean, maybe send that to every one of your users. No, I would take it too. Of course, we all have to be mercenary.
It's like $100 a month. It's not.
I know. It's crazy.
It's a nice gesture.
It's a gesture, is all it is.
Nice gesture.
Do you think Satya Nadella got a $1,500 check?
Yeah,
Would he even recognize a number that was that small?
I could play my pool boy this week.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's nice. They don't need to.
I think it's nice.
anything.
You know what? They don't need to give anybody anything. And it was just like, hey, you're starting to come back to work.
No, yeah, it's not a charity. I get it. But when big tech is a set of the biggest companies on earth, the biggest companies in history, the most influential companies in history, and the least regulated companies in history,
except in China, where the Yammer coming down.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. No, and by the way, the antitrust is winding up around the world. I get that. That's fine. And overdue for sure. But it's just.
I thought it was interesting. I was reading an article from a guy named Noah. His blog is called Noah Opinion. Get it? And
that's pretty good.
Love it. And he was saying that there's some thinking that what China is doing is not cracking down on big tech, but cracking down on consumer tech in order to support hard tech. Yeah. And when you're looking at Apple, Microsoft, Google, AMD, and Intel, that's all hard tech. That's not Facebook. That's not Twitter. That's not the consumer-focused tech. That's innovative hardware growth tech. And I think that's kind of interesting, that it's not necessarily China cracking down on big tech, but China saying, we really, the Ubers of the world, or Didi in the case of China, that's not adding real value. We want to focus on companies
companies like Facebook and Twitter and whatever are also spreading information to individuals.
Well, that's right.
Which is one thing that China doesn't want to.
They don't like that either. But they cracked down on Alibaba. Ant. They cracked. I mean, these are the Amazons of the world. They're not the hard tech companies of the world. And I think that's kind of an interesting take on what China is doing. And it makes a little sense.
I don't know if we can, I guess, is that considered antitrust? Or if we lump it in that bucket, I mean, just to call it something. It is interesting how different it is in the United States and in the EU and in places like Russia and South Korea. And now I guess in China, I realize it's probably technically not antitrust, but.
Well, China, they don't have to have a law. They just do it. The law is whatever President Xi wants, we'll do.
Sure. How freeing.
Yeah. And sometimes, one would assume, it's all going to be anti-democratic and repressive. But maybe it's also not a bad economic policy. I don't know. I'm not embracing what they're doing, but.
Headline, Leo Laporte is a communist.
I'm a commie. I admit it. No, the bad word these days is socialist.
Yeah.
Whew, one of them. Intel did well, or no?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, $19 billion in revenues, 50% of it from PCs.
It's funny because we've been ringing the death knell for Intel all year.
Well, and fairly, it's not overblown to suggest that there are issues there, but Intel's data center business struggled this past quarter. That actually fell the revenues. And the big thing to me, though, is they had this virtual event. I think it was actually might have been the day before yesterday. And I have some big issues with this. This is not so much related to earnings per se, but one of the things that's kind of interesting about Intel, right, is that we know that they've been lagging behind on this process technology. They can't get their processors down to smaller node sizes. Meanwhile, TMSC and the companies that use them are getting 7, 5, 4, whatever nanometer chipsets, and Intel's kind of stuck at 10-ish. I mean, because it's kind of fuzzy, like where their stuff is at. So what they're literally renaming their products to position them with the products they're competing with, not what they actually are. So in other words, like they have something called, let me see if I can find the exact name of this thing. Like an Intel 7 chipset is actually a 10 plus nanometer node process with enhanced superfin and blah, blah, blah. because and by the way, I'm not a hardware guy, and people could tear apart my argument here very easily, but I do sort of vaguely understand that Intel has certain innovations that make what they're saying probably at least somewhat true, but whatever. So they have a multi-year plan to rebrand and then get down to smaller node sizes. Interestingly, Qualcomm has signed on to use what they're calling their 20A process, which completely destroys the naming convention, but whatever.
Yeah, it does.
That is, that won't appear until 2024. But, they're ramping up their own foundries and all that kind of stuff. Intel is. But Qualcomm is actually signed on to use this.
Yep.
That's amazing.
And Amazon, right? Amazon, too.
Oh, is it Amazon? I couldn't remember the other one. Okay, Amazon. Yep. Interesting. So
is it 20A? It's angstroms, right? So
yes,
20A is 2 nanometers. So
it's 2. Okay, there you go.
So
okay.
there you go. Because after a while you can't. 2, 1, 0. What's next?
That's right.
So you got to go to angstroms.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. So 18A will be the one after that.
Right.
In 2025. So that would be one.
TSMC is going to build a 20 angstrom plant in Taiwan.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. I think they're trying to build one in the United States too, aren't they?
I don't know what the Arizona plant will be. Will it be 2 nanometers? Wow.
Oh, maybe it's not. Actually, it might be 4 or something. I don't remember, but they're building something. The old stuff. Yeah, the old stuff.
And then what is?
I remember the 4 nanometer chips. Oh,
I remember those.
You could see it with a microscope. They were so big.
So big. What is Intel? What is Intel's process now? What are they? Where are they?
10-ish.
Good
They still have some 14. It was kind of news that they had moved most of their chipset production to 10.
Yeah.
Wow. Granted, most of these chips are going into PCs, which are much bigger devices than
so it's
phones.
okay. Yeah.
It's okay for now.
Except in California, Colorado, Hawaii.
Yeah, that's right. Right. Well, maybe you can get an M1X gaming machine.
Intel's naming conventions for everything are so complicated, right?
Yeah.
Like their code names are complicated. This new naming scheme, I'm like, guys, there must be an easier way to name this.
Not only is there too much of it, but it's too confusing. Like when products are known to or have a bad reputation, they just change the name, right?
Right.
And if you look
Celeron,
at
Celeron's
a great example. Yep. The Y series chips, same thing. And they. If you look at we used to call them they have all these series like UHK, whatever the names are, but U is for ultra portable computers. It's the type of chip, it's the mainstream chip. It's probably the volume chip. And if you look at the U series chips that Intel's put out in the 11th generation, there's no U in the name. They have these crazy new names, and there are multiple versions of them. There are at least 3 different Core i7s in what we used to call the U series. Yeah. And they're all quad core. They're all, I don't know what's going on over there. I mean, they seem to be taking a volume approach to like models and whatnot. I don't know. I'm sure they know what they're doing. He says. Anyway, they're still a big company. So I wouldn't dispense with them yet. And I got to say, I kind of like Pat Gelsinger for whatever that's worth. He's got a...
Good. I mean, look, we want them to do well. I'm not rooting against them.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
No.
Competition's good. We want...
No, this is like the original argument about Windows 10 on ARM. Whenever they introduced that 5 years ago-ish, whatever it was, look, obviously, this is the direction we want the PC to go. If Intel can turn its ship around and make these chips just as efficiently, that's fine. Mission accomplished, right?
Yeah.
The goal is to move the user base to these more efficient designs. It doesn't have to be from Intel, but if Intel feels threatened by advances that Qualcomm or AMD makes or Apple now, and they make changes, great. That's fine.
Here's where I would normally say, let's take a break.
Well, we can still take a break.
Okay, let's take a break.
I check my email and I check my RSS
what do you do?
Play some Call of Duty.
When I'm doing those ads. You got enough time.
I can see that my order from Amazon has been accepted for the microphone that you recommended.
Good.
That's good.
And your new camera should be coming today, and then...
Mm-hmm. Oh, is it today?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what that was.
It's on the truck. Yeah, it's there.
I got it was from like a memory type company, Crucial or... Maybe, yeah, I don't know. It was some kind of, I got a weird
I don't know what we got. Anchor, maybe. We sent Mary Jo the Anchor, right?
Yep. Right.
No, we sent you the, I can't remember.
No, I got the Anchor. That I do have the.
Yeah, no, I know.
Oh, Elgato. We're getting you an Elgato, and because Crucial owns Elgato, that says it's coming from Crucial. Now I get. Now I understand.
See, now I did not. I get so many packages, I sort of don't pay attention that much. But I saw Crucial. I think it was Crucial, and I was like, Crucial.
They make memory. Did I order some memory?
I do need memory.
God, don't we all?
I hope it's the right kind of memory.
All right. Moving right along. Let's see what else we've got here. Are we done talking about Intel's nanometer gap? Now the angstrom gap.
Mind the gap.
Yep.
New word for us all to learn. Angstrom.
Angstrom.
Yeah.
Angstrom.
I looked it up. When I saw that,
it's an A with a little circle on the top. Like the Anaheim Angels logo, except it's a smaller circle.
Like Motley Crue, kind of.
Yeah, a little crew thing going. It's not an umlaut. It's Angstrom. Actually, I wonder what that mark is above the A. I don't know what it's called.
Like a single circle.
Yeah, it's just a little circle.
It's not an umlaut because that's two, right?
And Angstrom sounds so, sciencey.
It sounds chemical, chemistry
like a degree.
related.
It looks like a degree symbol.
Yeah, it's like a degree attached to an A.
Right.
Is it another form of temperature measurement, like
no, it's
Celsius?
It's just after nanometer comes angstrom.
Kelvin.
It's 10 to the minus 10th meters. A 100 millionth of a centimeter.
The fun thing is, if they get these things down small enough, they'll be able to. They won't need a giant foundry. They can build them in a garage because they're so small.
They could build them in my apartment.
They could build in a shoebox.
I don't understand science.
It's kind of amazing, honestly, because
it is.
I'm used to angstrom in you talk about angstroms with like wavelengths of light and things. I mean, you don't think of physical objects being that small. It's the distance between atoms is measured in angstroms. It's incredible. Yeah, you're right. There is an umlaut over the O in angstrom.
Oh, there's still an umlaut.
So there's it's Swedish. That's why. Yeah. So the A has a little circle over it, and the O has an umlaut. It's a 10 billionth of a meter.
Wow.
10 billionth of a meter?
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
How many king's hands is that?
If it were a horse.
Yeah, I'm just looking. I mean, if it was like a height, how would you?
The atomic covalent radii of phosphorus, sulfur, and chlorine are about 1 angstrom. Hydrogen, half an angstrom. Visible light wave.
Hydrogen is half an angstrom. So they're going to be at 1.8 angstroms by 2025.
Yeah, I mean, this is visible light wavelength is 4 to 7,000 angstroms is the wavelength. Oh. So it's really it's remarkable. So now instead of NM, we're going to see A.
All right, but before we get too excited here, I just want to remind everybody, Intel's still on 10 nanometer right now. So
yeah, exactly.
This is a nice bit of speculative science fiction. But
that's kind of reassuring, actually. Thank God they're still in the physical realm.
Right. Someday we're going to have flying cars, but all I'm saying is right now you still need rubber on the wheels.
Angstrom's the realm of fairies.
Exactly.
All right, Windows 11. There's a new build in town, baby. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, this is going to be a short conversation. So, just some minor improvements. Honestly, the big thing is the previous build, you remember, had huge reliability issues. Those have been fixed. That's kind of nice. I don't know that anything here is particularly interesting. I mean,
the chat thing. Everybody's got the chat. Teams chat.
I'm sorry. That's right. Yeah, and that's okay. So, have you played with this, Mary Jo?
Yeah,
we should experiment with this.
I've done a little with it.
I'll add you.
Okay. I don't want to sync all my Outlook contacts with this.
Right. I don't either. But I don't mind syncing my Skype contacts because I'd like this to replace Skype,
Same. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I mean,
it's just basically meant to get people to sign up for Teams Personal, right? Like that's when you click on it, that's kind of what it is, right? It's a way to try to get you to use that part of Teams.
The one thing they're doing that I kind of like, and it reminds me of the early days of Windows Phone, when they had this big promise that kind of never took off, was you can communicate with someone who's not on Teams, obviously, right? So you might just have their phone number, and they'll get a text message, and they'll be invited to join Teams. But I haven't tested this, but I believe they can still just reply, and you can kind of have the conversation that way. I think that's cool because in that sense, because to Microsoft, this is Teams, and I'm sure we'll all be added to the monthly active user thing that they're now using. But from the perspective of a user, this is a way to chat with your friends and family. And if it's done correctly, you can text chat, you can have like a video meeting. I mean, I don't think a lot of people are going to use this, but I think it's kind of a cool idea.
Yeah. What else is in there? Anything else? No, it was pretty
nothing major.
Mostly fixes, right? More than anything.
Little things like the, by the way, one thing they're doing, and I just, from the perspective of having to document this for a book, I find alarming, is they're renaming things. And like the notification area, which is not anymore, that area at the right of the taskbar is not called that anymore. It's called the corner of the taskbar.
I know.
And it's like, guys, but as you know, or as you probably know, if you use Windows, there's a little chevron at the left of those icons, and nobody cares about this except for me. But there are status icons and system icons, and there are interfaces and settings where you can determine what's going to appear there. But there's an overflow area, so if you don't want the icon on the taskbar, you can hide it, but it's available in a little pop-up or panel, or whatever you want to call it, when you click on the chevron. So they're still there,
Yeah.
That thing, this is called the hidden icons flyout. And it's like,
I like that.
I know.
Or the HIFO. It's a HIFO.
Yeah, the
Exactly.
Yes.
Let's call it that. Let's start calling it HIFO.
Yeah.
Not hippo, HIFO.
Yeah. So, okay. So that now has...
You know what? So I want to complain about the Teams notification center. I mean, the notification center in Windows 11. I hate it.
Why?
I like the one we
say
have
that?
now. I don't want my calendar in there. That's just distracting. Very distracting.
So all right. So I just wrote I'm doing those feature focus articles, right? So there are two new user interfaces in Windows 10 in that corner, right? There's the quick settings, which is literally ripped straight out of Chrome OS. And then there's this notification / calendar panel. Yeah. In Windows 10, calendar is its own thing. If you click on that, calendar pops up. You can do stuff. Yeah. And for notifications, there's a separate button. So they're trying to consolidate these things down. I feel like you either consolidate them completely, by which I mean there's one interface, or you don't consolidate them at all.
I agree.
And and if you look at Chrome OS, and I took some pictures of this for the article, they have a single button. You click on the corner there, and one thing comes up. It's got quick settings. Notifications are on the top of quick settings. So that's a little different from how Windows works. But I actually think that makes more sense than having them be attached to the calendar. Yep. And honestly, there's more room for it too. I mean, one of the problems with 16:9 displays, right? You're kind of squished down. You don't have a lot of vertical stack space there. So there's not a lot of room. And I think that's actually why they have two different interfaces. Yeah, but arbitrarily, calendar and notifications are in the same
I don't want that
thing. And I don't agree. They don't go together. And by the way,
it can't be removed.
How do I get this look in Skype and Teams? What are we in an airplane? What's going on?
This is like that together view. Yeah.
Apparently it's coming to Skype.
Yeah, it should, because Skype is going away, so that makes sense.
Yeah, might as well. Right. Sure, let's improve.
Does anyone like that together mode? I'm not a fan of this.
I didn't know you could do an airplane.
Yeah, they've been adding more backgrounds. I
like that they're in an exit row.
Yeah, you're in an exit row. You can apparently do even for two people. You can do it. So
I know. Cool. I was on a Skype call the other day with someone, and they accidentally got the together mode to work, and then it was like, "What did I just do? I don't want this.
I'm a cat.
No, shut it off."
I'm a cat. I'm not a cat.
I'm not a cat, Your Honor.
We had a big meeting at work with everybody. So I actually switched it on just to kind of look at it. And I was oh God, no. This is not. Yeah, it's weird.
I know a lot of people find it less tiring and it makes it easier to see more people, but I'm like, I don't like the fakeness of the background, I guess.
I like seeing everybody. I think an automatically constructed grid, it doesn't have to be like a Brady Bunch grid, but they make some bigger or whatever. That's fine. Like I think that's where I want it to be for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyhow, but as far as this build, not a lot, I think is what we're trying to say. Yeah. And I don't know what day this came out. Must have been last Thursday. So
it was.
Yeah, Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would assume maybe tomorrow we'll get another build. And obviously now that we have chat, and chat's not feature complete, but everyone at least has it. The next step is that Android app thing. And that's the big one, right?
That's what we're all waiting for. The other shoe to drop.
Because God, never in history have this many people been pining away for the Amazon App Store.
This is the first time ever.
Yeah, it's crazy. But
Windows 10 version 21H1, which is the current feature update, right? 21H1.
Yep.
It's doing pretty well.
Yeah. It should, right? It's the smallest, easiest update.
Right. Not a lot of blockers, probably.
No. I mean, the last 3 versions, at least, I think all have exactly the same level of compatibility or whatever. It's now the second most used version of Windows 10, behind 20H2, right? So the version from late last year, which again was a really simple, easy update. That version is 36.3% usage, and then version 2004, its predecessor, is in third place with 24.6%. Also of interest, sort of, Windows 11 made its first appearance on the list, not with a bullet per se, as Casey Kasem or Dick Clark might have said in the past, but 0.9%.
And now a request from little Billy Gates in Redmond, Washington.
Yep. Bill's calling in on his 30 baud modem.
With a bullet. Yeah. And Edge has been updated, Edge 92. Is this are they now in the monthly update cycle? Is this part of the?
Not quite. That is happening I think that's September, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 2 more cycles.
I think 94, yeah. But this is kind of cool. So Edge has been, and Google's doing this too, to be fair, or doing something like this, but there's been a lot of password management improvements to Edge over the past couple of releases. And this one adds a nice little feature where you can look at your passwords in that, in the settings interface, and it gives you a health rating for each one, from a red circle, which means it's leaked online, to 1, 2, or 3 bars. And my favorite is the 2-bar one. It's like weak password or reused password, right? Actually, I'm sorry. My favorite is the 1 bar is weak and reused. So that's the ultimate insult, which I'm surprised I don't have more of myself, but. This is good. I like this is nice. People should take the time to look at their passwords, frankly, and Edge can generate passwords, and Edge can manage those passwords if that's what you want to do. Obviously, you can use a third-party password manager as well, but and in some ways, I guess you could say they're catching up with third-party password managers. But it's a nice thing to have built in the browser, because lots of normal people are going to use this thing. And now, when your passwords are leaked online, Edge will warn you. That's been in the product for a little while, but. That's good stuff. The other interesting thing, and this is cool for me because I think about this kind of workflow thing a lot. Microsoft released a Microsoft Outlook extension for Microsoft Edge, which today, I could be wrong about this. I think it just works with Outlook.com. No. Actually, it works with Outlook.com or Outlook on the web, which is the commercial Microsoft 365 account. I think it only supports a single account. Someone said that you could use profiles, right, possibly to have this extension work with a different account in each profile. That actually makes some sense. I don't know if it works that way, but that's a good idea. It's a little interface that pops up when you click on the toolbar icon, and it has views for emails, check calendar, tasks, phone numbers, contacts. And I actually use Gmail because I have to, because of work. But I'm looking at this thing. I'm like, this is actually kind of cool. Like I could picture using this as for email on the desktop, like instead of having a browser tab for email. Like this looks like it's pretty good. And then someone pointed out,
how many messages? So can you see?
Yeah, it's not going to be. Yeah, it is recent emails, right? But if you're on top, if you're doing a zero inbox thing or trying to, I mean, it should be enough for most people.
Are you?
You know what it is,
though?
Zero
inbox thing?
No. I'm not.
Good.
Please,
okay.
I
was like, wait,
I'm not
I don't
magic.
even know you anymore. Okay.
We aspire to zero inbox.
So I'm confused. So you can get Outlook in the browser, you can get Outlook in the desktop, or you can get Outlook in the browser
in an extension. But here's what's fun thing.
This is Outlook.
This is going to blow your mind. And this was pointed out to me by a reader. The interface for this thing is literally identical to Outlook Mobile on a phone. It doesn't just look like it. It is the same shape. Huh. It literally, there's no way this wasn't what they did. I mean, I'm not saying they took the code.
Some coding. They might have.
Yeah, maybe, but they might have. I mean, it's pretty cool. It's worth looking at. I could have made that an app pick in a way. Anyway, you don't need, I mean, it's not a feature of Edge 92. It's an extension. You have to install it. But if you are an Outlook.com or Outlook on the web user, you should take a look at it.
Yeah, I like that idea, actually.
So it's a pick and a tip right in the middle of the show.
Wow.
Yep. Screwing around with everything.
All right, that's the Windows segment.
Right. Yes.
Now the Windows Server segment coming up in just a moment. Hey, dozers! Dozers! Wake up! You're listening to Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley.
I feel like this isn't going to stand the test of time.
I think I'm already tired of it. Dozers!
What price your soul, Leo?
$20 million a year for the next 3 years would be close.
Oh, I'd be doing those podcasts from Paris.
Anything they want.
That'd be the end of it.
Windows Server. I'm thinking Mary Jo Foley on this one.
Yes, of course you are. This is a huge deal that Microsoft hid in the docs, okay? They didn't even make a blog post or announce this officially, but Microsoft is going back to a new release schedule for Windows Server, starting with the Windows Server release coming this year, Server 2022. After that, no more semi-annual channel releases of Windows Server. One Windows Server release every 2 to 3 years. You know, like the old days, like what people liked when there was stability and not a lot of weird new kinds of things going on with Server, which is kind of a legacy product that you don't need to be doing a lot of crazy things with. They are saying if you are somebody, I have a feeling not many people dabbled with semi-annual channel because you had to use containers and it wasn't really for production. It was more for testing new features that were being added to servers. So they say if you are one of those select people who do like doing that, you should be looking at Azure Stack HCI, Hyperconverged Architecture, infrastructure, because that's where they're going to be doing things with containers and microservices and that kind of innovation.
Yeah. Why would you don't want a server to update every 6 months. You want to update every 6 years. That's
right. So my guess is what's going to happen is they're going to kill the insider program for server. I asked them this and they said, we have nothing to share at this time, which usually means
I'll take that as a confirmation.
Yep. And, you know, again, Microsoft started out really strong with Server Insider Program. They were publishing notes all the time, just like they do with Client about what was new, fixed. And then they just stopped doing it. And it was like, there's no more release notes. Oh, well, we might tell you every, 9 months about what's going on with Server, but we're not going to tell you every week. Like, that's crazy, right? So I feel like Server's going back to its rightful place. And a lot of people who found out about this when I posted about it are like, yes, this is what I want. This is how it should be.
5 years, 5 years. Perfect.
Yep. Right. You get 10 years of support for the server releases, just like the current state, which is.
They should just call it what it is. 1 year is 9 years because no one's adding new features. And, it's just not happening.
I know. Right.
Just stop pretending.
So, Server 2022 comes out sometime in the second half of this year, probably very soon because it's already done and they're just kicking the tires with the OEMs. And then 2 to 3 years from now.
If I worked in PR, Mary Jo, and you called me and you said, are you going to get rid of the insider program for Server? I would have said, Mary Jo, I'm going to tell you the same thing I told you last year when you asked me about the Microsoft Store for Business. We have no comments.
Exactly. Exactly.
By
then
which
I'll get
I mean,
to flip my hair again. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, this is good news though. Like I've so far on Twitter, I've had one guy who's very upset about this happening, and like 100 people who are very not upset. So yeah, there you have it. The one guy who wanted semi-annual channel.
What is it called? Azure Stack HCI or whatever?
Yep. That's what I said. I said, you could go there. You could go over there. And he's like, you know what? Microsoft is making it so you want to go to Linux. I'm like, well, they don't really care if you're using Linux because they're supporting Linux on Azure. And, like Microsoft loves Linux. Have you heard that? Yeah. Okay.
But isn't the benefit of Linux really that you're running something you don't have to update? I mean, I don't understand the complaint here.
I don't know. People like to complain. That's all I'm going to say.
I've never noticed. Oh, yeah.
No,
the whole
you've
internet.
never seen that? I know.
That's my entire life. Dealing with complaints.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay.
That's all about server.
That's it. Server is done. No more server.
I love that. I love that they're doing this. They should do this with Windows. It's such a good idea. 5 years mainstream, 5 years extended. I love it.
Is it? I bet the calculus is, well, the people who want to test server, this would be a better way for them to do it, is to do it with the Azure.
Yeah.
If you want something to be updated a lot, here's an idea. Use Azure. And let Microsoft do the updating.
Let us do it.
Who's doing this kind of stuff?
Mm-hmm.
That
go to Linux.
model never really made sense for server.
Linux. You can update every day if you want.
You could change distributions every day. Go to town.
Yeah.
And it's like distributions of Linux are like numbers of cheese in France. It's more than there are in days in a year. Yeah.
Yes. And they have very fancy names also. I know.
There's a new one called Kiss. Kiss shut us. Microsoft's rumored fall hardware launch. I'm sorry.
Lunch.
I have
Also
something
their
else on my
lunch.
mind. Yes.
Right.
So, every October, pretty much, Microsoft does a Surface event where it's for holidays, right? So I think this year there will be another one, probably a virtual event again. And one of the things we're all expecting at this launch is the Surface Duo 2.
Ooh, I like the pictures of the new one. I'm excited.
Yeah.
A camera.
Okay.
Yay.
It looks
what
like they
about
slapped
the
a
bump?
Samsung camera on it.
No, I don't think those are legit pictures. I think that's the real.
So Zach Bowden seems to believe, and he I think has seen the Surface Duo 2 or seen pictures. He says these look legit. So there could be this giant camera bump on the back of it. So you get 3 cameras supposedly with the Duo 2. So this is good because they really screwed up the camera on Duo 1. It was very subpar. But now you're going to have this really cool, nice, sleek, foldable dual screen Android device with a giant camera bump. So when you fold it over, you run into the bump with the back of the
a little wobble.
Duo.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a good thing if that really is what they're going to do.
It also doesn't work in different orientations, right? If you just want to use it as a single screen device, you're hiding the camera.
Somebody said maybe if you had an indent on the opposite side, you could fit into.
Yeah, I don't
So you know what? With Panos's focus on beautiful hardware, this would be very surprising to me for them to come out with it like this.
Well, I mean, the Surface Book has a crazy hinge with a teardrop shaped hole when the thing is closed. I mean,
but this is way worse than that. I feel like that didn't really bug me like this would bug me. I
just don't think the camera was the thing that kept people from using this device, right? If we kind of accept Microsoft's contention that it's not a phone, right? It's not your only device. It's a productivity mobile device or whatever. I mean, doesn't it have more? How about like a zero low bezel thing? How about a folding display? Right. I mean, I don't know that this was the big concern. I know people didn't like the camera, but I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's job one to me.
No. The thing they've really got to fix, if you look at the reviews of Surface Duo 1, all of us who got early review units, we all said the hardware is very beautiful and the software is not anywhere near ready for prime time at all. And so I'm much, much more interested in other things they do besides the camera.
No, I agree. You're right. Yeah. You're right.
I mean, it would be nice to have a nice camera, but
and I think NFC would be good.
Yeah, it would be good.
That's missing.
Right.
Those are the things I hear most from people. But really, the biggest
a modern
complaint,
version of Android. Maybe.
Yeah, that's still on Android 10. That's the biggest complaint, though, is software. I think.
Right. And so, if they do launch this in October, my guess would be they haven't fixed a lot of the things that people are complaining about.
Yikes.
And that fits in with Microsoft hardware MO, which is that they never make a good one till the third iteration. That's pretty much true. Even about Windows, that's kind of true.
Yeah. So wait. I'm going to buy it because I really want it.
Of course you are.
I really want
Leo,
it to
back away from
succeed.
the cliff.
No, I'm not. I'm not buying another folding screen. I really don't think that's the right way to go. I have had the Galaxy Fold 2 for a while now, and it's not right. It doesn't feel right. I think that hinge screen. I know people think I'm nuts. I think that's okay, but the software has to use it properly.
It could be better for sure. And,
So I'm not against it. I would buy it.
You would?
It has to have a good. For me, if I'm going to use it as my main phone, it has to have a good camera. Because I use the camera all the time.
I guess Microsoft's argument was the reason they wanted to have the hinge and the dual screen is 2 screens are better than 1. You always want to run one app on one side and one on the other. But when I used it, I didn't want to run it that way because the way we've all adapted ourselves to phones is to do single screen. And now it's like, oh, wait, I guess I could have 2 apps side by side, but how often would I ever really want that?
Yeah, I didn't have it long enough to adjust. I thought the Kindle app was a good use of it.
The Kindle app was a great use of the folding screen. It was.
But why though? I mean, one of the weird things when you switch from real world analog stuff to digital, whatever is, everyone spends so much time trying to emulate the past.
No, that's a mistake. I agree with you.
But I feel like you should optimize for the device, and maybe there'll be improvements. Like the big deal about Kindle isn't the fact that it's on a screen. It's that all your stuff's in the cloud. It's not taking up space.
Right.
It's not kindling for my next house fire.
I think I actually made the transition. I was still buying books.
Yeah.
Until very recently. And the last 5 or 6 books I bought have all been Kindle. Because it's instant, it's easy.
Yeah.
Those are mostly programming books. But
they need color e-ink, and they need to have the entire catalog available on one of their e-readers. That would make me switch back to a dedicated device, but
I love it that I can use the website or the Kindle app, or
you could be standing in line in a store and
do it anywhere.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually pretty nice.
It's hard to argue with it.
It's hard to argue with. So the last book I bought, I'm reading this 15-volume sci-fi fantasy thing we talked about before.
What's it called?
The Wheel of Time.
Oh, yeah.
Robert Jordan.
Okay.
Awesome. I mean, it's really good. I'm in volume 4. And the audiobooks are about 40 hours each. So it's more than 400 hours.
This is over 20 years. Or
came out in the 90s.
Over 30 years old. Yeah. I remember a friend showing me the first book.
It's not as old as Lord of the Rings, but it's...
but it's
very Lord of the Rings like. It's like if you're looking for a Lord of the Rings only longer... You're in luck.
Right. Were you upset when the Lord of the Rings ended? Well, I have the book series for you.
But so the point being, I did, as I was going through the volumes, buy the physical book only because I'm listening to it, but the names, spellings are weird and stuff. Sometimes I want the 2. And I finally gave that up. And actually for $150,
that's the other thing you get is the Kindle Audible integration. And you can listen to part of it. You can read part of it. You can, and it syncs up. I love that.
I love that. So that when you pick up, wherever you're picking up where you left off on the other thing. You can, and the other thing I love is I can make notes, or I can select, and you can see what other people have selected, what passages, which is fantastic. And I have a note-taking app called Obsidian that I use that has a plugin that will suck all my notes off the Kindle and put it in a editable note form. So it's just it's all digital. It's a nice integration. I'm starting to think. It's sad because I love physical books. Sure. Lately, the programming books I've been buying almost universally on Amazon, the reviews of the physical book is, this binding stinks. It fell apart.
Well, this used to be the problem with programming books on Kindle, where the line breaks would be wrong, and
that's
depending
bad.
on the language,
but I think they've gotten better on that. Yeah.
Yep.
They seem pretty good now. So.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the time has come, and I would love. I don't know. I think having something that opens like a
You
book.
like the PDA thing. You like the idea of a PDA, right?
So look, if someone could make a case for, I regularly need to have two apps side by side. I drag between them. I take notes and refer. Maybe I'm watching a video, like a presentation, and taking notes on the other screen or whatever. Like I think you can make a case for that. But you don't spend $1,300 on a little thing it doesn't fit your pocket that you can read books on because it's a little bit more like a book. And
it's
like
heavy.
it's
heavy and thick, right?
Yeah.
And that camera bump's going to make it thicker.
Yeah. Right. Well, we'll see.
I know.
What else do we expect? Anything else?
I know. So what about the fall launch, right? Like, will there be other things? Some people think Surface Pro 8. Some people think Surface Book, it would be 4. Surface Book 4.
4, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're overdue on a Surface Book redesign. We're overdue on Pro going to that new Pro X form factor.
Yeah.
Love to
so
see
with
that.
all this talk of component shortages, blah, 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 they could just say, you know what, we didn't have enough components, so we didn't make anything else. Blah.
Well, the other thing they could say, Surface Book is expensive and it kind of reaches a niche audience. So they're not going to sell a lot of them. Yeah. They could offer that. That's fine. It's kind of like their flagship or whatever.
I mean, and then the crazy speculative thing is, what if they come out with the Surface, not Duo, what's the other one?
Neo.
Neo, right? Like, what if they say, here's your Windows, here's an example of our new Windows 11 device, Surface Neo, instead of running 10X.
That would make me very happy.
That actually makes some sense because it could launch with Windows 11, and it is that new form factor. And they love that kind of thing.
You got my interest up.
I do think Microsoft will ship something this fall with Windows 11 on it, because other OEMs are going to, and I think they want to also, right? Mm-hmm. The question is, what is it? Is it more like a really simple Chromebook-like type thing for education, or is it a higher-end fun factor like the Neo? I don't know. But I think they will do something.
I assume they would switch over existing products to 11 as well, right? So if they say they kept Surface laptop, what are we on, 4 now in the market? Yeah. And did make a 5 that starting in whatever month they go to Windows 11. Or maybe it's an option. Maybe it's a build time option.
Right. So far, nothing like what we're describing has leaked. The only thing we've seen the leaked bits and pieces of is Duo 2, but nothing about Neo. Well, nothing, right?
There is a Surface, what is suspected to be a Surface Book, like a patent type thing with a new type of. It's actually like that thing I just described, the HP Elite Folio, where the screen pulls forward and there's kind of a complicated hinge thing in there, so it doesn't detach anymore, but it can kind of come forward. And if you're familiar with like the iPad Pro with whatever they call that keyboard thing they have, the screen kind of hovers in the air above the keyboard. Yep. And I think it could work like that. And that honestly, that design could make some sense.
Yep. But I feel like when you see something show up in patents, it's years away, right? Like it's not.
Yeah, that's usually true. That's true.
So
Microsoft likes to milk their designs. I don't know.
Right.
If you bought a Surface Pro 7, whatever they call it, Plus, that's the same design as the Surface Pro 3. I mean, it's like literally 5 generations newer. Still the same design.
Yeah, we'll see. I think though they will do some kind of a hardware event in the fall.
Good. Okay. Yeah, they should.
In person event?
No. Apple's September is rumored not to be.
Yeah.
I'm guessing no.
I think with the new Delta variant, I think.
Me too. I think that's probably
we're all going to stay home from now on.
Sure.
You're talking about going back to work. I think, and Microsoft bonusing people because it was such a hardship working from home.
Yeah.
I think at first we thought, oh, this is going to be terrible. I would say a lot of people.
They want to stay.
And again, I'm resentful of this because I learned this 25 years ago, and I kind of hate that you guys are all piling on.
I was talking to one of our employees yesterday who said, "Yeah, it's hard to work with a lot of people."
In year 2000, I visited Israel doing a consulting thing, and we got up in the morning. We went to an office. We worked all day, and we went back to the hotel. The next morning, they called. They said, "Hey, how come you're not downstairs?" And I said, "What do you mean?" They said, "We're going into the office." I said, "Guys, I went into the office yesterday."
That's enough.
How many times a year do I have to do this?
I don't know what you expected from me, but
did you guys see the thing about Google today that they pushed back their comeback and are likely mandating vaccines for?
Oh, they are mandating. vaccines. Yeah. Yep.
So
I think we're going to see a lot of that. And,
yep.
I know there's some pushback on that stuff in certain quarters, but guys, listen, nobody wants to wear masks again. And if you all got vaccinated, this literally would solve the problem. So what do you say?
Yep.
This is something we can all start agreeing on, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Moving right along, Mary Jo Foley, go ahead, go pat your cat, feed your dog, make some beer, because it's Xbox time.
Yeah, there's not a lot here. Okay. So, which is, most of the big Xbox news to me was in the earnings thing.
Yeah. It was very good quarter, right? For Xbox.
Depends.
Despite not being able to sell it, they made a lot of money.
Yes. So the Xbox Series X and S have sold more than any other Xbox console at launch in history, despite the fact that, they couldn't make enough of them. That's amazing. You still can't buy these things, So beyond that, it's almost August. I think Sunday or Monday probably is the first day of August. So we're getting a new Games with Gold for next month. They've announced those titles. The big one to me is Lost Planet 3, but that's an Xbox 360 title. So the two Xbox One titles that are in there, Darksiders 3 and Yooka-Laylee.
What?
Which is not spelled the way you think it is.
Ukulele. Is that a game?
None of these are particularly interesting to me.
Am I going to learn ukulele?
No, it's it's kind of a cartoony. It's different. Microsoft wasn't the only company that sold more consoles than ever before in the past year. Sony did too, and Sony sold 10 million PlayStation 5 somehow.
Yeah, because it was just as hard to get them as it was Xbox.
It still is. Yep, and that is amazing. That is amazing. They only barely addressed the component shortage issue. They said that they're making steady progress with available global supply. We can't wait for the day when everyone who wants one can get one, of course. You have to wonder how many Microsoft has sold. It's got to be less than half that number. But I bet they could have sold 10 million if they could have made them. It's too bad.
Yeah.
Oh, and I lied. I have more Xbox stuff, but it's in the it's in the back of the book.
You want to save it?
Yeah, no, it's in the back of the books.
Okay.
I will say. I was thinking there was more, and I couldn't figure out why it wasn't there, and then I realized why.
I moved it around.
Mary Jo, cut it out of the notes.
That's how we get you. Yeah, right. It is a little. Yeah, what is your? You have the weird notation. Oh no, it says MF. It used to be different. But anyway, yeah, there's a little MF, and it's like a big blank space in the notes.
Yeah.
Should I let me open this up to the stage in our East Side studio on our Discord. Give people a chance to raise their hands, ask any questions they want to ask. This is one of the benefits of joining Club Twit. Really, we started Club Twit because we thought we want to, we've always thought it would be nice to give people a way to support the show. We did that when we built the studios with the bricks, and your support was phenomenal. But we thought maybe an ongoing club with some benefits might be a good way to defray some of our costs. We have no ads, for instance, on this show. I'll have one ad on the next show. That means, we're kind of underwater today. But thank goodness there's Club Twit, because many thousands of you have joined, and I invite the rest of you, if you listen to our shows, you like our shows, it's an easy and inexpensive way to support them. $7 a month, that's all. As yet, no yearly plan. We don't want to really make you commit to a year or make us commit to a year on something as new as this. So it's month to month right now. You can quit anytime. So you're only out $7. See if you like it. Here's what you get. Besides the inner glow of knowing you're doing the right thing and supporting this network, which isn't, by the way, just me and Paul and Mary Jo. It's a lot of other people. There's Ant and Micah and Jason Howell. There's also all of our contributors across the board, all of whom get paid. And so $7 a month gets you ad-free versions of all the shows. You're paying us, so we don't need to sell ads against you. It means no tracking as well, which I think is important. It also means you get the Twit Plus feed, We try to give you a little extra stuff. There's fun little things in there, stuff from beginning and endings of shows that didn't make it to the podcast. Our Untitled Linux show, things like the Giz Fizz, all of that stuff makes it to the Twit Plus feed. There's also a Discord, and that's what's going on right now. This Discord server is, I kind of fell in love with Discord. Hadn't used it much. I'd used it mostly like a Slack, not as a social network. But it's a really great social network. And it allows us to do things like have these live stages. So I am going to invite Fuma, somebody new, yay, up onto the stage. And you can talk to Paul and Mary Jo and ask your questions. So send out the invitation. He has to accept it and move up there. There's also chat rooms for all the shows. And you see theirs are active even when the shows aren't. Plus, we have all of the things and geeks and enthusiasts love.
Leo, I have a question.
Yes.
Is your Linux show literally called Untitled Linux Show? Because if it is, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's the name. They wanted to call it, the Tux Show and stuff. I said, dudes, Untitled Linux Show is the best name ever.
Yep.
Hey, FOMO, welcome.
Hello.
Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from the suburbs of Chicago.
Beautiful Chicago. And what's your real first name?
I'm Steve.
Hi, Steve. I don't want to call you Fuma all the time.
No, that's fine. I've been doing the club since the first week. This is just the first time I woke up or had the bravery to raise my hand.
I'm so glad you did. Thank you. I really welcome. It's nice to have your support, and it's nice to have you on stage.
Yeah. So as much as we love to talk about Microsoft naming things, this kind of goes into just their update strategy as well. So I know we talk about, like, with Windows 10, we've got, the 20HX releases, we've got experience packs and whatever. And then, hate to make comparisons to a certain fruit company, but this week they released macOS 11.5.1, right? Very easy to understand with one number what you've got. What the heck is keeping Microsoft from every year we release a point upgrade? If there's a security update in between, if we do, a .z upgrade, like. Plus, you would think from a support standpoint, I mean, I remember back in the days of Windows XP where you downloaded, a separate patch for every single bug. Why are they not making life for themselves easier by going down a linear path with, hey, we do X.Y.Z releases?
I never thought I would say this. Apple is doing the right thing. And Microsoft should
oh, my God.
copy
Is there a
them.
confetti thing we could do
Hell
right
is
now,
freezing
or?
over.
Microsoft should copy them
Keep
on
this
this.
recording, Mary Jo, by the way. This is
You're going to be in an Apple ad.
I know. I'm pretty soon going to be on, those TV ads where you see all these blurred images and beautiful graphics, and they'll have me saying, Apple did the right thing.
But Microsoft does have a lot more SKUs and a lot more.
Yeah, but that's
But
self-inflicted
make
damage.
It easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can't. This kind of board this is like a why question, right? Like, why is hard. I mean, I will say they have, Windows as a service was the disaster, but if you look at the way they're handling what are not really feature updates anymore, it's certainly improved. We've talked about this for a long time. I mean, they've gone through all these stupid names for all these updates. You need a version number that makes sense. They've struggled with that a little bit. I know once we got up to 2004, it was like, oh God, we had a Windows Server 2003. And they switched to the 21H1, the H1H2 naming convention. Guys, this is computer software. Just use version numbers. You mentioned Windows XP. Windows XP was Windows version 5.1. I mean, it's just there's a marketing thing that has to happen where you get stupid names like XP and Vista and. Well, I guess that was the end of that. Then there's, the servicing end of it. Well, I mean, where they need, you actually have to have a version number that makes sense and doesn't fall into a
Mary
Y2K
Jo
stuff.
Foley, you are now the master of animated GIFs. She is participating in the Discord, which one of the best things about the Discord is the animated GIFs. Nice choice. Go ahead, Steve. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
It's the parallel tracks that it allows, right? That, hey, these users have this subset of updates and these users have this subset of updates. And it just seems like, they could really make things easier by saying, even if they only do It just seems really complicated because you don't know. It's not only SKUs; it's how many SKUs are out there with this set of updates, but not this set of updates. And I don't know. It just seems overly complicated.
This is a company
you
that
were just talking about how bad
get
Intel
their own names right.
Intel does the same thing. I mean, it's you could get a 10th generation chip, except there were several of them.
Even the move to Windows 11. I mean, Apple did it. Yeah. I guess we have to do it,
Yeah.
You have Microsoft employees that refer to versions of Windows by the name of the update that you install to get to that version. That's not the name of that product.
Right.
But even within Microsoft, you find disparity or different ways of
Charles Simonyi has to come back. Yes. And they need to adopt the Hungarian notation for Windows naming.
He does.
Hey, that wasn't so hard, was it? Nothing to be scared of, right, Steve?
Oh no, I'm working from home, so I normally end up like in a meeting when you guys are recording.
Well, we're so glad you could join the Dozers. And
this is slightly better than a meeting, I hope.
Yes, better than working.
Absolutely.
Thank you. It's great to hear from you. Thank you for joining the club. I really appreciate it. All right. Let me see if there's anybody else. Nobody else had the. See, be brave. It's not scary. We're not going to bite your head off. It's okay
Mary Jo's going to start calling in so we can't go to the Xbox stuff I have for the back of the book.
Hey, there's an idea.
I have a question for Paul.
Right.
What is it about Xbox?
Another caller from Manhattan. That's interesting.
All right. Kev wants to say something. I love getting Kev in. Kev's very active in our chat. Plus, he's got a nice Brit accent. So come on up onto the stage. Kev Brewer. Hi, Kev. Good to hear from you. Welcome.
Hello?
Hello. We hear you.
Oh, great.
I pushed the right button.
Good. I have a question for Mary Jo. What's new in Teams this week?
Say that again?
What's
That's
new
a
with
bannable
Teams
offense
this week? Kev's a bit of a wag.
He is.
Do you have actually anything you really want to know, or you just wanted to give us a hard time, Kevin?
I thought I'd fill the gap for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's always great to hear from you.
I like that mashed potato has the I'm not a cat face.
Yeah. What's great about our Discord is you get to know these people. Like Kev, I'm really because of his mastery of animated GIFs, among other things. But he's very active during the show and stuff, and it's great. You really get to know the audience. IRC's been that way as well, but there's something about having the graphics and the voice and all that stuff I just really love. So thank you, all of you. If you want to know more about joining Club Twit, just go to our website, twit.tv/Club Twit. If you want to go directly to the page, I think there's a banner on the front too, and help us out a little bit. We love that. We should also mention that, and this is for everybody, not just Club Twit members, Paul and I are cruising for a bruising. Next July, we're going to Alaska. Paul and Stephanie, Lisa and I will be going on a Holland America cruise to Alaska.
Assuming we're not on the Omega variant by then.
Well, and of course, don't worry. If it's not safe, we're not going. But assuming everything's eased up by then, and I think there's a shot at it anyway.
Sure,
it's going to be a lot of fun. We get to see some amazing stuff in Alaska. I've done this cruise on Holland America before, and it's wonderful. If you want to know more about that, cruise.twit.tv. I would caution you though, sign up soon. We only have a limited number of cabins to sell, and I have noticed that the cruise industry is like taking off. People are getting back.
Yeah.
They're excited about getting on to travel. So
this cruise, are we the only people on it? Is it the whole cruise, or is it like part of the
Not
cruise?
unless it's only 61 people on the boat. No.
I see. Okay.
No, I think it's about 1,500 people on the boat. We'll be a small portion of the
So we could get lost in the norms. Well, I think we're going to have to mess around with these people a little bit.
We could have some fun. Why are all these geeks on here? I don't understand.
Yeah, exactly. I've never seen so many pocket protectors.
So many people with sandals and socks.
Yes.
There's a welcome aboard cocktail party just for our group of Bon Voyage. There's a goodbye cocktail party, and then there's a presentation you and I will do. But there's a lot of, I think there'll be informal stuff. Stephanie says she wants to do a mixology seminar. That will be awesome. I think what will happen is we'll gather in one of the lounges every evening before dinner, so we can all get together and talk every night. And then Lisa wants to do a photo walk, so at least one of the excursions will all be. You'll have the opportunity, if you want to, bring your cameras. We'll take some photos. I know a few of the stops are incredibly photogenic. And then we can review photos during.
You should look at the excursions list if you haven't. Not you.
Oh, I haven't yet.
But I haven't yet. Some of them are. Oh, they're incredible. So some of them are. There's a lot of like aircraft type excursions you can go on, like a helicopter or a plane ride. Oh, you're
kidding? Oh,
no. There's some really neat ones.
Those are additional costs you should be aware of. So I've done helicopter and excursions before. They can be very pricey, but it's worth checking out. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't realize they were up yet. Lisa and I have some.
Yeah. No, there's a bunch
to
of stuff
do.
up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cruise.twit.tv. We'd love to see you next July. Now, time for the back of the book, and we'll kick things off with Paul, who has used all his tips. As always.
I do have some Xbox stuff here. And this was what I was wondering about earlier. Microsoft, I think late last week or maybe very early this week, announced a big sale on video games across Xbox and PC. And you should really take a look at this because they have, these are digital games, but up to 70% off on Xbox digital games. I mean, and seriously, look at the list. Like, for example, the latest Call of Duty, I think, was down to less than $30, and it's typically $60. I mean, this is a really good sale, so it's definitely worth checking out. It's called the Ultimate Game Sale. I think if you just go to xbox.com, they'll probably have a hello. Why is that so bright? They'll probably have a thing right there. But I have a link to the actual sale in the show notes. But a lot of good stuff in there. And then app pick, I actually have 3 app picks. The first one is the big release from this week, which is Flight Simulator is now available on Xbox Series X and S.
Exciting. Is it going to be frame rate wise? I guess it will be, right?
It's awesome. I am obviously not like I typically play Call of Duty. This is a beautiful game, and they've added a lot of little quick start things where you can just do like kind of I'm going to get the term wrong. It's like entertainment flights or whatever. So they have a lot of really cool places like the pyramids of Egypt or Paris, which is the one I've been doing. And it's you download these visual packs that make them like super realistic looking. And I got to tell you, I know my way around Paris, and I know a lot of buildings in Paris. And I don't mean like famous buildings, but just buildings. And this thing is super accurate. It's really good.
So cool.
They don't have like the individual cafes and stuff like that. It's not quite that good. But if you know these places, or actually if you haven't visited them, you just want to see them. I mean, this is an incredible way to do it. And the neat thing about Flight Simulator, now that it's on console, is it's also available via Game Pass. So if you subscribe to Game Pass on console, on PC, or on Ultimate, which is both, you can actually play this game, not for free, but it's, as part of your subscription. And my only complaint was that I couldn't figure out a way to fly more slowly that made sense, because I kind of wanted to take it in, but then somebody wrote in and told me there actually are slower planes, but there's also a mode that's like a sightseeing mode, and they fly the plane for you. And so you go on like set paths around these beautiful places.
Oh, that's what I need.
You almost want to just leave it on as like a screensaver.
Screensaver. Yeah.
Really, really neat. So this is a big deal. I haven't been able to test it on Xbox Series S, but on Xbox, it's supposed to be amazing though on that console as well. But on Xbox Series X, my screen is 4K 60 frames, and it does that. It's beautiful. And just a side note, Microsoft a couple of days ago announced Flight Sim hardware that works across console and PC. Some of it I think is not new. In other words, it's out. It's now. You can get it now if you want to. All the yokes and the special controls and stuff. Some of it will be out in time for the holiday season. But there's a wide variety of hardware if you're really into this. And I'm not ever going to get into it that far. Although the controller can be a little touchy for a plane. I crashed. I keep trying to fly under the Eiffel Tower, and I haven't made it yet. But
you were the one. Yeah. You're the one.
Like, here we go. I got it.
Do you tip the wing? What happens?
Yeah. It's tough because it's
probably pretty
I
tight.
always do. It's like you try to adjust, and it's like you just go play with it. But anyway, it's awesome. It's
what are you doing? A Cessna is the smallest plane you can fly, right?
It's whatever the default. Yeah, it's like a little Cessna. It's not like a 747. No, this is this is a little plane, right? It would fit. Like I should be able to make it. I'm not very good at it. And then just two more because these just happened, and both of these are very interesting to me. Parallels is most famous for Parallels Desktop, right? So on the M1 base Macs, everyone knows you're running Windows 10 on ARM now, Windows 11 soon, I presume. There's a version for Chromebooks, there's a version for PCs, but they also make some other products. And one of the really cool ones that I think a lot of people don't know about is called Parallels Toolbox. So version 5.0 came out this week. You pay $20 a month. $20 a year to use this. It's not something you buy outright, but the sheer number of tools in it is amazing. And this is true on both Windows and the Mac. And there's some slight differences. Obviously, a lot of the tools are the same, but some are different. Version 5 adds, I think it's 4 new tools on Windows and then 5 on the Mac. And there's most of them overlap, but not all of them do. But there's a barcode generator, barcode reader. Mac users get something called Focus on Window, which is kind of like a new style focus mode where the application you're using is crystal clear and the other one's a little bit blurred out. Transform text, which is awesome for a writer. If you have text and it's all messed up in some way, maybe it's all caps or maybe it's not correctly capitalized, whatever it is, you can transform it in every way imaginable. Capitalized case, title case, lowercase, sentence case, et cetera, et cetera. And then a really cool one called Recognize Text that will convert an image that has text into it into plain text. That can just be copied to the clipboard and used however you want it. And also a color picker for anywhere on screen. It's called Measure Color, which is, eyedropper type stuff. But the coolest stuff in Parallels Toolbox is not the list of things I just mentioned, although some of those are actually interesting. You got to go look at this thing, and you'll be surprised. If you're not familiar with it, I think you'll be surprised by how much awesome stuff is in there. So do check that out. And then Vivaldi, which is one of those Chromium-based browsers that I would say to date is probably most well known for the personalization capabilities, came out with version 4.1. So not a major update, but there's actually, they're listing two that are big. I actually think a third one's pretty big too. So they have tab grouping and they have different ways to group tabs. They have like that 2-level feature, you have the tabs on different levels. There's a compact version. And with 4.1, they're adding accordion tabs. And this is just a way for tab groups to kind of accordion out when you're using them. And then when you go to something outside of the tab group, it accordions back. And it just allows you to have like tons of tabs on one row of tabs, but not have them all, so small you can't even tell what they are. So that's kind of useful. There's a command chain thing. And this is something I didn't know that was in Vivaldi, but they actually offer you a way to hook commands in Vivaldi to keyboard shortcuts that you can customize. And now they're doing chaining of commands. So now you can have a keyboard shortcut that launches multiple commands.
That's my only complaint about Vivaldi is there's so much. Yeah, there's so much.
Yeah, it's too much. Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Even just to start using it, there's page after page of customization. Yeah, I think that's great. I mean,
right. I exactly the same. I almost wish there was a way. I guess if you customized it and then it was there every time you signed in, it would get there. But when you first are presented with it, it's like, there's a lot of stuff. But that's the point of it. And I think some people,
if you want control,
that's the attraction.
This is
that's the attraction.
If you want power, this is an amazing. And it's based on Chromium, so it's a good. It's got
all that. Yeah, all the good stuff from Chromium.
It's a good browser. It's not.
Yep. It's worth. I mean, look, it's free, right? So. There's no reason people can't run multiple browsers. You can try these things out and just, and for some people, I just think for me, I'm exactly the same as you. I'm like, oh, it's a little much, but I think some people will look at this and be like, oh my God, this is exactly what I want, because they want to be able to control everything. So.
Yeah. if you like configuring, Vivaldi's the browser for you. And I'm glad it's there. It's one of those things. Like it's on my to-do list. To configure Vivaldi.
Well, even like Brave and Opera are kind of in this space for me too. It's like these are all interesting to me. You kind of start it up from scratch, and it's like, oh God, like there's so much to do.
Yeah,
but it's an option.
Yeah, it's good. No, I think it's good to have that.
Yeah.
Some people need that.
Well, if you don't want to actually get work done, but you want to spend a lot of time configuring stuff,
I think honestly that's the market, to be honest. Yeah. Yep. Enterprise pick of the week, Mary Jo Foley.
Yes, so Windows 365, we've been talking about it a lot. On Monday, Microsoft is going to go public with the pricing. We're thinking they're going to be like 10 SKUs at least probably. We know the price of one of them so far, $31 per user per month for kind of one of the lower end SKUs. So yeah, this is likely not going to be something for everyone, but still Monday we should know more about what you get for how much money. Before that, though, if you're an IT administrator, you may not know this. I did not until this week. Microsoft is making Windows 365 available as a self-service purchase. That means your users can go in and buy it without you knowing, unless you use PowerShell to take control of your user self-service purchases and like put the kibosh on that. Or you can, as an administrator, also change the way this is licensed so users won't be able to do this. So Microsoft originally didn't have these configuration options, I don't believe, for administrators. They just were going to sneak that under the radar and just let people start buying it as a way to get it going. But there was, as they like to say, some user feedback on that was not positive. And so they added the ability for administrators to control this. So if you're an administrator, you might want to go in and look at your dashboard and see the different options you have to shut this off, unless you're okay with your users going out and buying subscriptions to Windows 365 when it becomes available. Microsoft says in the note, if you don't do anything, users will be able to start doing this as of August 15th, 2021. Word to the wise, get in there with your PowerShell. Yep.
Okay. And your number 2 pick of the week.
This is kind of an unbelievable pick. It flew under the radar a little bit, but Microsoft is going to cut the price of Power Apps in half. I thought, oh, wait, there's got to be a catch here, right? Like, this can't actually be what it looks like. No, as of October 1st, Microsoft is changing the cost of Power Apps from $40 per user per month to $20 per user per month under the per user plan. Under the per app plan, it's being cut from $10 to $5 per user per month. Microsoft never cuts prices like this unless they really want to get a product seeded in the market. And if you know about the Power Platform and Power Apps, the reputation is this is one of the most expensive and hard to license set of products that Microsoft has. Finally, I feel like they're listening to that feedback from people and they're trying to get this under control. So go into Microsoft's licensing site, do a search for that, and you'll see updates coming to Power Apps and a whole list of the changes that take effect October 1st, plus some limited time promotional lower prices that you can take advantage of up until October 1st. So yeah, if you've been hesitant to try Power Apps because it's very expensive, once you get in past like the kicking the tires stage, you will want to know about these pretty hefty price cuts that are coming.
Okay, here they come. Pretty hefty price cuts.
Hefty price cuts.
On Power App.
Yep.
Now, we're ready for one of the weirdest beers you have ever tasted.
Maybe the weirdest. I don't know. It's right on the edge. I've had, as our listeners know, I am out there to do research on behalf of Windows Weekly.
Yes. And we thank you for that.
Yes.
I take one for the team a lot and try a lot of different beers. Not always my favorite styles. So this one, I have to say, it was one of the weirdest beers I've ever had. It's from Drecker in Fargo, North Dakota, and I love their IPAs. So I'm like, you know what? I bet their fruited sours are amazing as well. And they had one that I saw in a can here in New York called Chunk. Chunk is a series of fruited sours that they do, and the reason they call them Chunk is they're thick. As they say, they're a big boy, right? Like they thicken them with milk sugar, lactose milk sugar, and when you drink them, they're almost like a milkshake, almost that thickness.
Wow.
So this one I had was called Chunk Mango and Marshmallow.
Oh my God.
So I like mango. I like marshmallow.
I like beer.
I like beer. When you mix all these three things together, it tastes like.
This is
I'm not kidding.
something only a drunk person would ever come up with.
You know those little marshmallows and Lucky Charms?
Yeah.
That's what it tastes like. Tastes like that.
Okay.
So I kept drinking it and saying, "Do I like this or do I not like this?"
By the way,
drinking it.
That is the line. So I kept drinking it just to make sure.
You're like, I don't know about this, but I will keep drinking it.
I know, because I'm like, I love marshmallow. I love mango.
Yeah.
I should love this beer.
I should love it.
After
I love
every
Lucky
sip,
Charms.
I was like, this is a really weird beer. I kept saying, weird, super weird. And by the end, the 16-ounce can was gone, and
you were chunked.
I was chunked.
I was chunked.
I pretty
You
much
were
was.
chunked. Yeah.
I've been
I felt very
chunked.
chunky after that beer. I did.
Now I really want to try it.
That is amazing.
I like sours in general.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yep.
But often I usually think of sours as something lighter for summertime. This sounds like something you could cover yourself up with, like a blanket.
I know. I see RefCon 5 is put in another one of the chunks, strawberry and white chocolate. Yeah, they do all these crazy combinations.
Oh, wow.
They have a whole
Would you
series
describe
of
this as a
chunks.
health drink or?
You know what? That's what I kept telling myself also. I'm like, you know what? Mango. There's going to be a lot of mango in this. So it's like a juice. It's like drinking a smoothie.
Oh, that's. I'm
So
not,
it's- yeah,
I'm not
an
against it.
alcoholic
It's
smoothie.
more like expectation, right? Like you think you're sitting down to a beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're like, no, it's more like a smoothie, but like a marshmallow. Yeah.
And then
it was
I kept
weird.
drinking it.
I just kept drinking it because I was like, you know what? It's my job as your
You're like,
beer
this doesn't make
taster
any
to tell
sense.
you
I should probably
about
keep
this.
This is magically delicious.
Exactly. I felt like a leprechaun. I am Irish, so yeah, it worked. I don't know. Suddenly I was clicking my heels together and dancing around.
It's chunk. All right, dozers. It's chunk time. That is the beer of the week, which, as you know, is the traditional conclusion, the closing ceremonies, if you will, of this weekly gathering we call Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott.
Weekly.
He is at Thurrott.com. That's his official blog on the internet, Thurrott, but it's not just Paul. I mean, there's Brad and everybody's on there. It's a good site for people who are interested in the latest news from Windows. Join the premium, and you get a lot of Paul's longer think pieces, things about programming and stuff that I really enjoy. I think the premium is well worth it. Thurrott.com. The field guide for Windows 10 is still there. Windows 11 is coming, but if you are using Windows 10, you need the field guide for Windows 10. You can get that at leanpub.com. News? Anything you want to share?
I mean, I'm working on the Windows 11 book.
Good.
I'm not working on the Windows 11 book.
Yet.
No.
Things can change. She said she liked Apple today. We know.
Guys,
right.
no, there's a limit. There is a limit here.
That's Mary Jo Foley, Apple lover. And
Right. Noted Apple
I'm going
lover.
to add
Mary
that
Jo
to my
Foley.
Twitter profile right now.
noted Apple lover.
Is All About Apple taken?
Her All About Microsoft site is the place to go, the ZDNet blog, where you can read all about Microsoft. She gets the scoops there, let me tell you. Together, we've got the best in the business, and they get together every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern time to record this show. You can join the recording. We stream the recording live, audio and video, at twit.tv/live. If you want to be a real dozer, you got to do that. You can join the chat room. I'm going to keep working it, man. I'm going to keep working it. irc.twit.tv. Those are the Doge chatters. And then there's, of course, the Doge quarters. Those are in the Discord there. The Doge quarters are members of Club Twit, twit.tv/Club Twit. Those people can interact live, and that's kind of fun. We love having that. After the fact, though, you can always listen to the show. It is a podcast, after all, at twit.tv/WW. There's a YouTube channel dedicated to the show. You can watch there. If you don't watch in real time, please join us in the asynchronous conversations at our Twit community forums. That's www.twit.community, free to all. We also have a Mastodon instance, twit.social. It's so fun because when people want to join the Mastodon instance, I ask them just a couple of questions. You have to be approved because we'd had a big spam problem. And so I ask them questions like, what's your favorite show? And, like that. And it really helps because the spammers, they don't know what the hell. Somebody wrote Twitter the other day. So spammers are an interesting breed. Some of them are so honest. They say, well, I want to share information about my new product. And it's like, yeah, no. But you're welcome. We'd love to have you join. And we know what your favorite show is. Dozers! Go to twit.social. Paul says.
I just don't feel like we're going to look back on this in 10 years and,
That was the right move, Leo. Man, I am so glad you did that.
We'll be we'll be rich and retired on a beach because you went in the dozer.
Dozers!
I still like dupers. What about Hadoopers? No, dupers? No.
Hey, Joe, that sends the wrong
Dupers
message.
with like a silent H on the front of it.
No, like super dupers.
Oh, hey, super dupers. Hadoop is the... I think it takes a little more explanation than I'm willing to do.
Yeah, it is. It's a little.
It's not quite an elevator pitch.
Yeah.
See, there's this thing called Hadoop. It's named after Horton.
Here's
a Who, and
You already lost 90%.
I don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
It's something about databases and virtualization, and Mary Jo seems to like it a lot. So I think SharePointers would be a little better. I feel like that's taken. Don't
It is taken.
Campbell
It's
uses
taken.
it, right, or somebody? Yeah.
Yam jammers? No.
Yammers.
Yam jammers.
Hey, you yammers.
You yam
You
jammers.
yam jammers.
You've been yammed.
Hey, doozers. Doozers sounds like something a Canadian would say. You doozer, you dozer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it
exactly
does.
right.
Richard Campbell.
I'm having way too much fun. But that's Windows Weekly for you. We'll be here next Wednesday. I hope you will be as well. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Bye, dozers!
Android may be just another operating system, but when you check out all about Android, you'll realize that Android's also a ton of fun. Join me, Jason Howell, and my co-hosts, Florence Ion and Ron Richards, and a whole slew of guests that we invite on the show every week. Every Tuesday, in fact, we talk about the latest Android news, hardware, apps, and we answer a ton of your Android-related questions as well. Don't miss All About Android at twit.tv.